All right, class. First off, as always, good day. I'm glad you're here. So, today's lesson is going to be about the French and Indian War, what it was, what happened, and things like that. So, the objective we're going to analyze, again, the French and Indian War. We're going to critique the actions of the Boston Tea Party and its effectiveness. You know, did it really help the colonists or did it hurt them? And then we're going to develop a logical argument on whether peaceful negotiations can actually happen between rivals. Okay. And if you don't know, rivals are people who don't like each other. They don't get along, things like that. They're always like they're enemies in a sense. Okay. So let's go ahead and all right. So here is your warm up picture. Now the question's asking what is this artist trying to say about the uh, relationship between Britain and France? Now, thing is, in class, I've asked everyone, hey, which of these flags is Britain? Which one is France? Which one is America? Or I should say the colonies. And a lot of students got it right, right off the back. So hopefully you know it. If you don't know, go on Google and look up French flag, uh, Britain flag, and that should help you out. Okay. So again, I'm not asking you to write down, oh, I see these guys, with this and that. No, no. What is the artist trying to say about the relationship between these two countries? Okay. So think about it, write your response. And again, if you don't know which country is which, uh, go on Google. Okay. Okay. So we're moving on in three, two, one. All right. So the main reason for the French and Indian War was basically about land. Okay. Now, so if you look at the map, that section in blue, that's the French territory. The section in solid red, that is the English territory. Now, the problem is each side basically said um, our border is on the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. Here's the problem. Um, the Appalachian Mountains, it's a big old mountain range, and it goes alongside where you see on the map that red and blue striped area where it says Louisiana. That's basically the entire Appalachian Mountain area. It's big, it's long, it goes right across several states. The thing is, both sides claim the outside of it. Nobody really claimed the middle, and that's when they realized, like, well, whoa, 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 they don't own that. I do. So that's when they said, okay, what I meant was the foothills on the other side of the mountains. The English then said, yeah, we meant the foothills on the other side of the mountain. No, no, that land's ours. So both sides now claim that that land belongs to them. Okay. And that's where the fighting starts. And again, Britain and France have been enemies for the longest time. We're talking hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. They've hated each other. And if you look on the map on the world in Europe, they're right next to each other. Okay, they're right next to each other, and they can't stand one another. They're always going to war, always fighting. Um, especially from this time and before. Okay, before the 1775. Now, thing is, why is it called the French and Indian? Well, we take it from the perspective of the English, you know, And the thing is, the French and the Native Americans, they kind of got along. Okay. Not every single tribe got along with the French, but a lot of them did. They did trading and stuff like that, weapons and furs and things like that. But the thing is, they got along better with the Native Americans than the English. When the English, as you see in the map in red, when they came in, they basically, a lot of them, just shoved the Native Americans aside and basically told them, this is our land now. You need to go away, you know. So they were more disrespectful to Native Americans than the French. And that's why a lot of Native Americans, not all, but a lot of them, didn't like the English. Okay. Now, this war goes on for 5 years here in America, it intensifies so much that over in Europe, they continue fighting over there. And this became known as the 7 Years' War. Okay. Now, somewhere along the line, Spain sees that England is kind of losing some battles. So they're like, hey, we don't like the English. Why don't we jump in the fight? The English, side with the French, and maybe when the war is over, we'll get some more territory and things like that, and to kind of like stick it to the British. Well, thing is, guys, the British are the biggest, baddest army, navy in the world at that time, and they beat the French, the Spanish, and the Native Americans. Okay. Now, here's the thing, it's one thing to have a war, it's nothing to pay for that war. And that's exactly what happens here. Britain needs to pay for the war. Now, what did they pay for? Well, they had to pay for the soldiers, the soldiers' food, the weapons, the uniforms, new boats, new, any type of other weaponry besides guns. Um, yeah, they had to pay for that stuff. Now, how do they raise money? Well, basically, there's two for sure ways to get money. One of them is raise taxes. Okay. Problem is, a lot of the guys are fighting, battles or signed up as soldiers. So raising tax money, it's not going to get them much. So what they decided to do was the other way, which was borrow money. And now that the war is over, they got to pay back that money, to banks and, really, 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 really rich families. Uh, Now, a student said in class, I mean, they're a country. What if they don't pay back, the money they borrowed? Who's going to do what to them? Well, here's the thing: those really rich banks and really rich families, they have tons of money. And if a country like Britain says, "Hey, we're not going to pay you back," thing is, Britain is going to have to borrow money again. Those rich people and the banks know they're gonna come to them eventually. And yeah, it's like if somebody borrowed money from you, they say, "Can I borrow $50?" And you lend it to them, and they go, "Ha, I'm never gonna pay you back," and they leave. Yeah, they may not pay you back for a month, 2 months, maybe even a couple, several years. But once they burn everyone else, they might be coming back to you and be like, "Hey, can I borrow $10?" No, you never pay back my 50. So they'll come crawling back, and that's exactly what happens. Britain would come back to borrow money. So they said, okay, you know what? We need to pay these guys back. Okay. So they started collecting taxes. Now, the thing is, back in America, the colonists are like, hey, we won that territory, from France. Let's head on out that way. Let's expand. Let's stretch our arms and things like that. The thing is, the British made a deal with the Native Americans, known as the Proclamation Act of 1763, in which they said, we won't go in your territory. Okay, that land is ours, but we won't invade it. Okay. And they knew if these colonists go into that territory, it's going to start another war with the Native Americans, and Britain doesn't want another war. Okay. Now, speaking of those taxes, Americans, we're pretty shady when it comes to paying taxes, and we don't want to. So, what happens is, like when a boat would come into town, let's say Boston, into the port, uh, a person will come in and they count all the boxes and say, okay, there's this much stuff, take inventory. Okay, we're going to tax you on this. The person, people buying the stuff, they're going to be taxed on that stuff as well. So it's all, cataloged and everything. They know how much stuff is being sold, how much stuff was brought in. So what some American businessmen decided to do was tell these ships that had cargo, we'll meet you like a mile or 2 miles out in sea. We'll meet you. Um, we'll exchange the stuff in the middle of the ocean. All right. You give me the goods, I'll give you the money. That way you get the money and it's not taxed. And then when those boats come into town, hey, they can either take it out at nighttime when there's nobody out there, Or they could basically say, it's mine. I didn't, get this for anywhere else. This is my stuff. And you can't tax them on your own stuff. So the thing is, the English knew what was going on. They realized, like, okay, these guys are being kind of shady, not paying their taxes to us. So they did something to make sure that they get their tax money. Now, if you've ever gone to the store, whether it's the grocery store or the convenience store around the corner, if you get something for $1.99, there's a little tag on it. When you go to the register and you pay for it, it's never $1.99. It's like $2.14, 208, 209, whatever it may be. The reason for that is the taxes on it. That's what you have to pay for it. It's taxes on that stuff, the goods, whatever you buy, whether it's food or clothing or wherever. You know, you're gonna have to pay taxes. So that's what Britain did. So we're gonna put taxes on these items. So they passed these acts, okay, as direct tax on items. The first thing they did was sugar. So basically, sugar or molasses had a tax to it. So the Americans were like, you know what? We can go without sugar. We don't really need it. In fact, it's probably bad for you. So, yeah, we won't buy any. Because again, they don't want to pay taxes on it. So Britain goes, okay, we got you. So they decided to pass the Stamp Act. The Stamp Act basically put a tax on anything that was printed material. So books, legal documents, playing cards, um, anything that had ink to paper on it, I need to have a stamp that showed that, hey, this person paid their tax on it. So Americans, again, not wanting to pay taxes, said, you know what? We'll make our own books. We'll make our own legal papers. Even if we have to write it by hand, no problem. Same thing with playing cards. We'll make our own. We're not gonna pay taxes on that stuff. So Britain goes, okay, got you. You want to play this game? Fine. Say to put a tax on things that really people needed in the new colonies. And this was the Townshend Act. They put tax on glass, lead, paper, paint, tea, some of the stuff that the colonists didn't have access to. They didn't have facilities to make this stuff. The thing is, Americans found a way around it. They would look at buildings that weren't being used and some of that or left and say, hey, you know what? Let's use that in the mirror, that window. Let's pop it off, put it into this new house. Instead of putting two coats of paint, let's use just one. Save that paint. Don't waste it. Okay. Now, to make matters worse, under the Townshend Act, the customs official, the people who went on the boats and took a record of all that stuff. Excuse me. They were now given the authority to basically arrest smugglers. So I gave the example in class of, if you've ever seen those little meter maid people in the little vehicles in downtown, imagine them having like SWAT gear on, the weapons and the shield and things like that. You kind of be looking at that going, that doesn't look right. And that's exactly what happens. People look at the custom officials like, this is basically a person who's just keeping track of how many boxes are coming in and leaving and things like that. And now they can arrest people? Yeah, no. So England basically doubled down with the Intolerable Acts, which included the Tea Act, Quebec Act, and the Coercive Act. Now, with all these taxes piling up, uh, the colonists started to really, really get upset, and a rally cry was given: no taxation without representation. Now, what does that mean? Well, the thing is, all these taxes were being passed in Parliament, the Congress in Britain. Problem is, there's nobody from the colonies over there representing the colonies. So when they say, "Oh yeah, those colonists, they're fine, they can handle these taxes and things like that," there's nobody there saying, "No, no, no, we can't." There's, the people there are, they have no money. They're barely surviving, and you guys can't pass a tax on people who have no money. You're not going to get anything. You're going to upset them and things like that. They had nobody there speaking for them. Okay. So that's what I mean. No taxation without representation. Now, because of the Stamp Act, a group of men started to form and talk about a big old thing that was a no-no back then, which was independence, breaking away from England. These guys would meet at a bar in the back, and they would whisper, talk to each other quietly about we need to be independent. We can run our own country. We need to separate from Britain, and this is the kind of things we would have to do. Now, why did they have to whisper? Because that kind of talk, that's treasonous. Okay, that is treasonous, and the penalty for treason is death. Even now in this country, if you are charged with treason, um, you can be put to death. Now, a student asked me in class yesterday, who were the last people to be charged with treason? And if my memory serves me right, it was the Rosenbergs in 1952 or 1954, somewhere around there. Um, yeah, they were the last people. Okay, because they were charged with giving secrets to the Soviets. Now, that's whether they did or not, that's a lesson for another day. But yeah, they were charged with treason and espionage. Now, I love this story. This one makes me laugh. The day before the Tea Act was to take effect, 150 guys, the colonists, decided to get on to this British ship and dump the tea. Now, here's the thing. Um, about 15 to 20 guys um, decided, you know what, let's be in disguise. So they dressed up as Native Americans. Thing is, Native Americans are very tanned, because they're out in the sun and things like that. These colonists are very, very white, so they were not fooling anybody, you know. So yeah, and the thing is, there were people who watched the Tea Party happening. Um, in total, 342 crates of tea were dumped overboard. Okay, and this became known as the Boston Tea Party. Now, some of the people on the dock watching the tea get dumped over by these guys, cheering them on. Yeah, yeah, you do, heck yeah, Um, it kind of rallied up some people, got them like, heck yeah, that's how you give it to the British. Excuse me. This is where the coercive act comes in. Basically, Britain says, hey, since we can't pinpoint all 150 guys and make them pay for it, we're going to have the city of Boston pay for all that tea. Now, just think of it like this: a crate of tea is about like shoulder length, you know, width, and about maybe a foot and a half tall. So there's a lot of tea in those crates, and these guys dumped all that tea out there. So yeah, the city of Boston had to pay for it, and the British basically said, you know what, these guys did not decide to do this that night. You know, they planned this, they executed and everything like that. So no more town hall meetings, because when you guys get together and you guys plan things, no, no more of that. Also, they appointed a new governor um, of Boston, and his name was General Thomas Gage. Okay. And lastly, they added an additional 2,000 soldiers to comb the streets, walk the streets day and night, so that people felt the presence of the British. Now why did they do this? Again, to discourage the colonists from destroying any more properties or any goods from the British. And the colonists saw all this stuff, changing a new governor, no more town hall meetings, having a bunch of soldiers go through the streets every day, some of that at all times, all day and all night. They saw that as like, you guys are trying to control us. You guys are being like like just horrible dictators. So it's kind of ruffled their feathers a little. Now, there's a town called Concord, And this is the place where the Minuteman was invented. Now, the Minutemen were basically citizens who had their gun, their powder, their bullets right next to the door. And they would basically have their boots right with them, whether they were taking a nap or in the shower. Well, I should say shower, they didn't have showers back then, but taking a bath. They'd have their boots right near them. So if a bell was ringing or somebody ran through town shouting, "We need the Minutemen! We need the Minutemen!" or something like that, these guys could literally get dressed, get their boots on, run out the door, grabbing their gun and all their stuff in a minute or less. They were basically citizen soldiers, militia. Now, here's the thing I want you guys to understand clearly. There's been a lot of movies that come out from this time period, and they always show like every single American was like, or every single colonist, I should say, was like, we need to be free. We need to be away from Britain and this and that. We need to fight for our independence and la 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 la. Guys, that's not how it was. And I know these are American movies and they're trying to show like, hey, there's a patriotism and all these guys were waving the flag and this and that. No, no. There were a lot of people who felt either we should stay neutral with Britain, stay cool with them, don't get them upset, still be in their good grace. And some felt that, hey, no, 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 we should be completely loyal to Britain, bow down to the crown, you know. Don't even think about uh, independence. And those people who talk that kind of stuff, get rid of them, put them in jail. So that whole idea, and then again, it's Hollywood, I know that, but they give this image that every single colonist felt that way. No, there were a lot that said no. Um, in the states of New England, which is like Massachusetts, Vermont, Connecticut, and Virginia, those states did have a lot of people who said we should be independent, we should be free. States like Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, even New York, a lot of people in those states felt that we should stay loyal to the crown. Okay? We should stay loyal to the crown, and that's it. Now, that guy you see right there, that is Thomas Gage. He, again, the new mayor of, or say, governor of Boston. He heard that in the city of Concord, the militia, excuse me, had stored a bunch of guns, gunpowder, ammunition, and so he's like, I don't like that, because they're probably planning to do something to us. So he decided to confiscate those weapons that were supposedly in a barn. So on the night of April 18th, 1775, he orders 700 British troops to make their way to Concord. Now, these guys are marching the night and into the morning. And they get near a place called Lexington. And right when they're getting close to this one bridge, there they see 70 Minutemen just waiting for them. Now, the Minutemen see them British coming, and they give the order, take aim. So all the guys take aim, getting their guns up. The British march, they stop. They give the order, take aim, and they get their guns and they're aiming. No one's shooting yet. It's a good minute. A good minute. No one's shooting at each other. The reason why is because neither side wants to start the conflict. Neither side wants to be, they know this is going to start a war. So neither side wants to be like, oh, well, our side started it. No, no, they want the other side that, hey, they're the guilty ones. They started it. We didn't. So they're just standing there pointing. Now, somewhere, somehow, bam, a bullet shot is heard. And both sides just unleash. 700 British shooting at once, 70 Minutemen shooting at once, just smoke everywhere. Again, it takes them 20 seconds to load up a gun. and they're going at it. Now, here's the thing. Like I said, where did the shot come from? No one knows. Each side claimed, oh, the other side shot first. The colonists said, no, the British shot first. The British like, no, 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 no. The colonists shot first. Nobody still to this day knows. But all we know is once that first shot was sound, which is known as the shot heard around the world, everyone then unleashed. And this is quote unquote the unofficial start of the Revolutionary War. All right, so that's the end of the lesson. I know you guys have that X ticket question part, but again, because you weren't in class, you don't have to do it. When I say you can't do it, uh, because again, that's you get points for being in class, and that's part of the points of being in class. Okay, so with that being said, you guys, you take care, you be safe, and I'll see you guys later. Okay.